doors down the main staircase to the muster point at James Park. Those who use the door located to the left of the presiding officer are advised to proceed to the gate leading to Backledge Street Extension and to the muster point at the Old Market Car Park. At the muster points, further instructions will be given by fire wardens or other authorized officials. Thank you for your attention.
Let us now pray. O Almighty God, as we have come together to begin our meeting of the Assembly, we humbly beseech you to grant to all our members the light and guidance of your Holy Spirit, that we may wisely take counsel together and come to such decisions as shall promote your glory and the well-being of all our citizens in this our land, so that peace and happiness, truth and justice may be enjoyed by all people. Grant this for the sake of Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Oath of allegiance of a new member. Announcements by presiding officer.
On my own behalf and as presiding officer, and on behalf of all members of this honorable house, I wish to extend deepest condolences to you, Assemblyman Joel Jack, on the passing of your mother. I pray that God gives you the strength during this period of your grief, and especially on today as you deliver the budget statement to the people of Tobago. May her soul rest in peace.
Assembly bills sent back from Cabinet. Assembly laws brought back from Parliament. Petition papers.
Secretary of Finance and the Economy.
Thank you, Madam Presiding Officer. This morning I have the privilege of laying the following papers in this Honorable House: the Tobago House of Assembly draft estimates, details of recurrent expenditure for the year 2019, the Tobago House of Assembly draft estimates, details of the development program and the unemployment relief program for the year 2019, the Tobago House of Assembly's draft estimates of revenue for the year 2019, and as well the budget statement for the financial year 2019.
Presentation of reports by Dispute Resolution Commission, select committees, questions to secretaries. These questions will be referred to the next sitting, see that this is our budget sitting. Personal explanation, introduction of bills, motions related to this business or sitting of the Assembly and moved by a secretary or assistant secretary, public business, executive council business.
Secretary of Finance and the Economy.
Thank you, Madam Presiding Officer. Madam Presiding Officer, Honorable Chief Secretary, Secretaries, Assistant Secretaries, Chief Administrator and other administrators, senior staff of the Tobago House of Assembly, distinguished ladies and gentlemen in the public gallery, local and international audiences following this presentation on radio, on television, and on the World Wide Web, members of the media, good morning. Once again, the honor and privilege is mine as the Secretary of Finance and the Economy to present the draft estimates of revenue and expenditure of the Tobago House of Assembly for fiscal 2019. Today's submission, as with all my previous budget submissions to this honorable House, represents the collective efforts of many individuals and groups within the Tobago House of Assembly and the wider Tobago community. For this, I wish to express my sincerest gratitude. I wish to especially thank the Chief Secretary, all secretaries and assistant secretaries, and staff of the various divisions who contributed to the development of this presentation. Special commendation is also extended to the employees of the Division of Finance and Enterprise Development and the Planning Department in the Office of the Chief Secretary for their role in crafting today's submission. My appreciation is extended as well to the non-governmental and community-based organizations, individuals, and the 650 Tobagonians who participated in the 2018 Tobago House of Assembly's budget survey. Their numerous suggestions have assisted us in identifying some of the initiatives outlined in this budget statement. I'd also like to thank my wife and the rest of the family for their unswerving support at all times. And above all, I thank Almighty God for His continued guidance and grace, and the tremendous generosity of all who have worked with me as a team to help craft today's submission. Madam Presiding Officer, during the last fiscal year, we in Tobago, like the rest of the national community, have had to deal with our fair share of economic and fiscal challenges. Notwithstanding the difficult circumstances, we have worked assiduously to stabilize economic activity on the island, while at the same time keeping the needed focus on implementing our plans for securing Tobago's longer-term developmental needs. To this end, we are actively collaborating with the central government to expand and diversify Tobago's tourism base through the construction of a 750-room sandals resort on the island. We see this resort as not only adding to the stock of high-quality rooms in Tobago, but more importantly, as providing the necessary catalyst to strengthen linkages among the tourism, agriculture, education, and our cultural industries. High-quality food is an essential ingredient for the hotel industry, and the Sandals project will present us with a great opportunity to upgrade our farms and fishing establishments to meet the expanded demand for food. Indeed, the project has already started to generate strong interest among local, national, and even international entrepreneurs who see Tobago as a potential frontier for investments in some high-tech niches in agriculture. Madam Presiding Officer, all Tobagonians should recognize this project as an important game changer that will not only contribute to our national diversification thrust, but simultaneously provide a base for modernizing the tourism sector in Tobago. Madam Presiding Officer, the Assembly remains steadfast in its commitment to ensure that our development momentum continues, that the quality of life and the standard of living of the people of Tobago are not adversely impacted. The qualities of resilience and hard work for which we as Tobagonians have been known are the very same qualities we need to draw on to take us through this difficult period. Fortunately for us, we have a central government that is sensitive to our needs. In fact, a number of mega projects are earmarked for Tobago, and we appear much closer to attaining the elusive goal of self-government. We in Tobago, therefore, have a lot to look forward to in the near future. Madam Presiding Officer, Self-government for Ireland promises significant opportunities for growth and development. However, if we are to derive optimal benefit from the autonomy we seek, social and economic transformation is essential. We are at a critical juncture, and there is a need for a strategic review of all the operations of the Assembly in order to reorder and re-engineer and redesign our policies and processes consistent with international best practice. For example, the public service in its current form must be re-engineered to manage this transformation. Every resident and institution in both the public and private sectors must therefore be prepared for the additional responsibilities which autonomy will thrust upon us. Accordingly, Madam Presiding Officer, this year's budget is aptly themed Reengineering for Growth and Expansion. The structure of my budget presentation this morning is as follows. I begin with a review of the international, regional, and national economic developments, which will provide the context for understanding our own situation here in Tobago. Next, I will examine the Assembly's financial and budgetary developments over the past 12 months. This will be followed by an extensive discussion of our past budgetary performance and the focal areas of the fiscal 2019 budget statement, and then a presentation on the budget estimates for fiscal 2019 and its proposed financing mechanisms. In the penultimate section, I will examine some ongoing socio-economic issues affecting Tobago and then conclude the presentation thereafter. Madam Presiding Officer, while it is true that the current projections for growth in the international economy are positive, it is also true that in the last 6 months, the prospects for continued expansion have been dimmed by heightened uncertainty. This has come about for several reasons. First, there was a significant correction in the global stock markets in February 2018, and a sharp rise in the VIX, which is an index of market volatility. Markets recovered somewhat since then, but investor sentiments has clearly changed, and there's an expectation that another correction may be imminent. Second, the Federal Reserve in the United States has continued on its path of increasing interest rates. However, while interest rates at the short end of the market have risen since the beginning of the year, interest rates at the long end have not risen as much, leading to a significant flattening of the yield curve. In contrast, the European Central Bank has postponed increasing interest rates until 2019. The realignment of interest rates between the United States and Europe is likely to see a strengthening of the US dollar. Third, the Trump administration has implemented tariffs against steel and aluminum products from Canada, Mexico, and Europe, and against a range of goods from China. These countries have retaliated, and the global trade regime is on the brink of a trade war, the outcome and impact of which are uncertain. What can be said with some degree of confidence is that any decline in global trade will impact global growth negatively and could also adversely impact financial markets. Fourth, the revision to the tax regime in the United States was instituted earlier this year with the objective of causing US businesses avoiding taxes by locating overseas to bring jobs back to the United States. Fifth, crude oil prices have risen since the beginning of 2018, although natural gas prices have not generally followed this suit. High prices, if sustained, could eventually impact inflation expectations. Already in the United States, which is now the largest oil producer in the world, higher oil prices are causing production to increase again, and this is prompting OPEC and Russia to recalibrate their strategy to try to stabilize the market at higher price levels. Madam Presiding Officer, the regional economy presents a mixed picture. The economies of Guyana and Jamaica are doing well. In Guyana, this is due to the optimism generated from the massive oil discoveries there, which would make Guyana a significant oil exporter within a few years. In the case of Jamaica, the austerity of the IMF program has now begun to bear fruit. Its debt to GDP ratio is declining, and economic growth is projected to increase over the next 2 years. In contrast, following the general elections last month, the economy of Barbados has been revealed to be in more difficulty than originally thought. Its debt to GDP ratio is much higher than the figure officially published before, and the new administration is actively engaged in discussions with the IMF and other multilateral agencies on a debt restructuring plan and an adjustment program to stabilize the economy and return it to growth over the medium term. Madam Presiding Officer, it is against this backdrop that we can assess the current state of the national economy of Trinidad and Tobago and its prospects over the medium term. In his recent mid-year review, the Minister of Finance expressed some cautious optimism that the national economy is beginning to turn around. This is based on higher natural gas production, as BPTT's Juniper project has come on stream, and production from other fields operated by Shell also increased. Natural gas production has increased from 3.35 billion SCF per day in 2017 to 3.7 billion SCF per day in the first 4 months of 2018. The expectation is that this increased production, while still below the level needed for comfort, will boost production and exports of LNG and petrochemicals in 2018. The Minister of Finance has also indicated that the fiscal deficit originally projected for 2018 is likely to be much smaller. In addition, while inflation remains subdued, unemployment continues to tick upwards. These are indeed positive signs which, if sustained, will eventually see an improvement in the national economy. However, further fiscal consolidation remains necessary, and there is a need to stabilize the decline in foreign exchange reserves and eliminate the current account deficit on the balance of payments. These are critical markers of successful management of our macroeconomic situation. Madam Presiding Officer, I will now turn to the detailed analysis of the state of the Tobago economy. Madam Presiding Officer, the most recent survey of business establishments conducted by the Division of Finance and the Economy for Tobago confirms that in 2017, the services sector was still the most dominant sector, accounting for approximately 90% of the island's GDP. Given the well-known vulnerabilities of the services sector to the vagaries of the international economic environment, diversification of the Tobago economy is imperative. The survey of business establishments suggests that Tobago's GDP at constant prices fell from $1.85 billion in 2016 to $1.82 billion in 2017, a marginal decline of 1.6%. The data also indicates that the share of general government activity in Tobago's GDP was approximately 44% in 2017, and the share of finance, insurance, real estate, and business services in Tobago's GDP was about 27% in the same year. Madam Presiding Officer, the tourism sector, which comprises hotel and guest houses, and distribution and restaurants, accounted for about 14% of Tobago's GDP in 2017. Further, the data shows that the share of transport, storage, and communications was about 6% of Tobago's GDP in 2017. Finally, the data also indicated that the agriculture and manufacturing sectors were relatively small, and both sectors contributed only about 2% to Tobago's GDP in 2017. Madam Presiding Officer, the most recent labor market data from the CSO suggests that unemployment in Tobago for the second quarter of 2017 was approximately 6.6%, up from the 4.8% recorded in the comparative period in 2016. At the national level, the rate of unemployment for the second quarter of 2017 was approximately 5.3%. The data also suggests that in the second quarter of 2017, approximately 62% of the persons with jobs in Tobago were employed in the state sector, with the private sector employing approximately 38%. Again, these data point to the urgent need to diversify the Tobago economy. Madam Presiding Officer, the latest data on prices available from the central bank suggests that Tobago recorded headline and food price inflation in March 2018 of approximately 3% and 2.3% respectively. For the 12-month period ending March 2018, Tobago's headline and food price inflation rates averaged 1.5% and 3.5% respectively. Comparatively at the national level, headline and food price inflation in March 2018 was approximately 2.8% and 3.7% respectively. For the 12-month period ending March 2018, the headline and food price inflation rates nationally averaged 1.5% and 2.5% respectively. Madam Presiding Officer, I now turn to a review of recent financial and budgetary developments. In the financial year ended 30th September 2017, the Tobago House of Assembly received a total of $2,069,764,412 from the central government. The sum of $1,781,174,412 was received for recurrent expenditure, and $288,590,000 was received for development program expenditure. The sum of $207,248,122 was collected as tax and non-tax revenues in Tobago on behalf of the Consolidated Fund and used to offset the total appropriation, bringing the total parliamentary appropriation in fiscal 2017 to $2,277,012,534, approximately 14.8% less than in fiscal 2016. Revenue generated independently by the Tobago House of Assembly totaled $18,563,402. For fiscal 2017, recurrent and development program expenditure by the Tobago House of Assembly amounted to $2,246,374,776. Of this sum, recurrent expenditure amounted to $1,859,417,576, while development program expenditure amounted to $386,957,200. Madam Presiding Officer, at the end of fiscal 2016, unspent balances amounted to $113,498,831 was transferred to the contingencies account. These unspent balances were used in fiscal 2017 to finance capital expenditure and urgent projects and programs in keeping with our mandate to improve the standard of living of all Tobagonians. Some of the major projects and programs undertaken include the Unemployment Relief Program, $38.3 million, the Community-Based Environmental Protection and Enhancement Program, $18 million, the Shore Park Recreation Grounds and Cultural Complex, $9.85 million, and the School Expansion Program, $7.02 million. Madam Presiding Officer, for fiscal 2018, the total budgetary allocation to the Tobago House of Assembly amounted to $2.18 billion, of which $1.86 billion was allocated for recurrent expenditure and $315.7 million was allocated for development program expenditure. The overall budgetary allocation in fiscal 2018 declined by 6.7%. Madam Presiding Officer, the budget numbers which I will present later on were largely influenced by the PNM's manifesto for the 2017 Tobago House of Assembly election, the Tobago House of Assembly's pre-budget survey, the contributions from various stakeholders in the pre-budget consultations for 2018, and the budgetary submission of the various divisions. The budget for fiscal 2019 focuses on the following thematic areas: economic expansion and diversification, fostering innovation and creativity, tourism sector development, monetizing our cultural resources, stimulating the agriculture sector, investment in physical infrastructure, education and human capital development, provision of housing opportunities, improving health care and well-being, sport and youth development, protecting our pristine natural environment, community empowerment, and public service modernization. Madam Presiding Officer, I will now elaborate on each of these thematic areas in turn, starting with economic expansion and diversification. Madam Presiding Officer, the urgent need to intensify our diversification efforts in Tobago cannot be overstated. Our macroeconomic indicators support the need to diversify the island's economy, thereby making it more resilient to internal and external shocks. Critical to our overall strategy of diversification are our activities at the Business Development Unit in the Division of Community Development, Enterprise Development and Labor, and the Strategic Business Development Unit, the Eco-Industrial Development Company of Tobago, and the Venture Capital Equity Fund Limited at the Division of Finance and the Economy, as well as our support for private sector development and expansion. Madam Presiding Officer, in the last year, the Business Development Unit provided loans and grants totaling $1.62 million to 70 entrepreneurs. In addition, the unit provided capacity building training programs to 81 loan and grant recipients in a wide range of areas, including accounting and business management. Since the inception of the Enterprise Assistance Fund and Enterprise Assistance Grant programs, Tobagonians have received approximately $46 million in financial assistance, along with technical support to start, operate, and expand their businesses. Madam Presiding Officer, this Assembly has made significant investments in facilitating entrepreneurship and business activity on the island. Over the next fiscal year, the unit will continue to provide financial and technical support through its two signature programs, the Enterprise Assistance Fund and the Enterprise Assistance Grant programs. The unit will also intensify its community outreach activities to ensure that persons throughout Tobago can benefit from their services. Madam Presiding Officer, the Assembly has initiated discussions with the Caribbean Development Bank towards the establishment of a business incubator at the Covico Industrial Park. This incubator will provide startups and small and micro enterprises with the nurturing environment needed in the early phase of their development, with intensive hands-on and business support from subject matter experts and experienced entrepreneurs, as well as access to finance. This initiative will be jointly executed by the Business Development Unit, EDCOT, and the Tobago Venture Capital Equity Fund Limited. Madam Presiding Officer, our work at the Strategic Business Development Unit in the Division of Finance and the Economy is also critical to our diversification thrust. In the last year, the Strategic Business Development Unit developed a database of existing SMEs that have demonstrated some level of export potential. Information was gathered on their current capacity and the required resources to assist in their expansion with the aim of enhancing export readiness. The unit supported this thrust through the facilitation of a number of capacity building training workshops in a range of topics, including export fundamentals and business development. The unit collaborated with Export TT to host a Tobago Export Development Program, where 13 businesses, primarily in the agro-processing sector, received training and support in preparation for the export market. The unit also collaborated with Fashion TT on the Value Chain Investment Program, which saw noted Tobago designers benefiting from business development training and support from international fashion experts. Madam Presiding Officer, in the next fiscal year, the Strategic Business Development Unit will continue to offer capacity building training programs for Tobago entrepreneurs to gain and maintain access to export markets. In addition, the unit will continue to facilitate the testing and branding of Tobago's products to assist entrepreneurs in gaining access to regional and international markets. Central to this is the establishment of a product testing facility to ensure compliance with international standards. In this regard, discussions are underway with EDCOT to facilitate the construction of this facility at Cove. Madam Presiding Officer, EDCOT also has a significant role to play in our overall overall diversification thrust, and it continues to encourage entrepreneurial activity by providing both land and factory space at subsidized rates to allow persons to develop and expand their businesses in Tobago. Madam Presiding Officer, EDCOT is currently developing a proposal for the processing of essential oils, including bay oil. This project has the potential for job creation as well as foreign exchange earning potential. Madam Presiding Officer, you may recall from my budget presentation last year, I indicated that a feasibility study will commence for the construction of a commercial cargo port in Tobago. I'm pleased to inform this Honorable House that following the completion of the tendering process, the consulting engineering firm, Lee Young and Partners Limited, was contracted to conduct the feasibility study on the best location for this commercial cargo port. This study is at an advanced stage, and the final report is expected before the end of this fiscal year. A commercial cargo port in Tobago can facilitate the development of the light manufacturing sector as well as improve the efficiency of commercial activity on the island. Madam Presiding Officer, the Tobago Venture Capital Equity Fund Limited continues to advance its mandate to diversify the Tobago economy and to reignite the entrepreneurial spirit of Tobago. The company has completed a feasibility study for a Tobago feed mill, which which shows that this project is commercially viable. As such, the company issued a request for proposal for this project, and the submissions are currently being reviewed. Over the last year, the company has also received a number of proposals for investment in the clean and light manufacturing areas, agriculture and agro-processing, information, communication technology, ICT, renewable energy, and green technology. The company continues to work with potential investees, and following the necessary due diligence and analysis, funds will be dispersed and the investment will be added to the company's portfolio. Madam Presiding Officer, the company continues to seek additional capital funding from various sources. One such opportunity currently being explored is funding from a multilateral agency which would provide additional funding support for investees. Madam Presiding Officer, beyond the work of the Assembly-led entities to facilitate economic diversification and expansion as previously outlined, the Assembly continues to work with the business community to develop and strengthen the private sector in Tobago by providing an enabling environment for them to succeed. Particularly, in view of the problems on the air and sea bridge, we know that the private sector in Tobago face challenges, and we continue to work with these stakeholders in finding feasible and sustainable solutions. As an Assembly, we continue to upgrade our accounting and procurement systems to ensure seamless and transparent interactions with various suppliers of goods and services in the private sector ahead of the proclamation of the new procurement legislation. Madam Presiding Officer, as a major employer with significant influence on productivity, we are committed to work with the private sector on this issue. Earlier this year, the Assembly conducted its second iteration of the Tobago Productivity Survey, and the results will be used to inform our approach and management of productivity in Tobago. We'll continue to work with the business community as well as the labor unions as we confront this productivity issue. Additionally, Madam Presiding Officer, administrative challenges with the land license regime continue to affect the level of foreign direct investment to the island. Accordingly, the Division of Finance and Enterprise Development and the Ministry of Finance, the Division of Finance and Economy is currently working with the Ministry of Finance and Economy, as well as the Tobago business community, to review the application process to achieve greater efficiency. A joint statement will be issued shortly regarding the restructuring of this process. Madam Presiding Officer, let me now turn to the subject of innovation and creativity. Madam Presiding Officer, we are mindful of the importance of innovation and creativity if our businesses are to develop and maintain their competitive advantages in the various industries in which they operate. We also recognize that businesses which engage in innovation to differentiate and create new products and services typically outperform their competitors. As such, we continue to work to stimulate innovation in several areas. Madam Presiding Officer, you may recall that only last year, the Tobago Information Technology Limited (TITL) collaborated with its strategic partners, B-Mobile, Huawei, Jinamco Caribbean Limited, the Caribbean Telecommunications Union (C2U), and the Telecommunications Authority of Trinidad and Tobago (TAT) to host a two-day ICT summit themed "A Technology-Enabled Future for Tobago." This event brought together a number of local, regional, and international speakers and presenters and established a platform to guide Tobago's participation in the ICT industry. Madam Presiding Officer, essential to Tobago's ICT strategy is a newly established Innovation Center constructed at a cost of $7.7 million. This center currently offers international ICT certification, such as Pearson VUE International Testing, which would also increase our ICT human resource capacity on the island. TITL is also in the process of having the Innovation Center designated as Cisco Networking Academy, thereby allowing for specialized certification in ICT courses. Further discussions are ongoing as well with Kariri to develop a memorandum of understanding for training in software development for Tobagonians. Another key initiative, Madam Presiding Officer, in our strategy to foster innovation and creativity relates to our ongoing efforts to establish Tobago as an intelligent island. Discussions began last year with Huawei Technologies, and the Chief Secretary would have placed this topic at the top of his agenda during his recent visit to China and his visit to the headquarters earlier this past year. As an assembly, we have begun to assess the critical readiness indicators required for this initiative, including broadening the reach and reliability of coverage and ensuring the robustness of the infrastructure required to support connectivity and communication. These assessments will include the relevant utilities and state agencies and other key private sector stakeholders. Madam Presiding Officer, if we are to create the necessary ecosystems for innovation to thrive, this development cannot be pursued on its own. As such, we have committed to supporting the human capital development relevant to the Intelligent Island Project alongside the required infrastructure investment. Together, these human capital and financial investments will support the establishment of a platform to regulate and develop various e-services. E-services will have significant impact on the quality of life of our citizens, including improved management of our safety and security. Plans are also underway to utilize these services to facilitate greater data-driven decision-making, more efficient and effective planning in the public sector, improvement in the ease of doing business, particularly in areas such as agriculture and tourism, and improve learning management systems in education. Institutions and cities globally are becoming smarter and more intelligent, leveraging ICT as an enabler of socio-economic development. And so these initiatives provide the fertile soil for their growth in Tobago. It would behoove us to ensure that Tobago takes its rightful place in this interconnected world. Madam Presiding Officer, also critical to our thrust to stimulate innovation in Tobago over the next fiscal year will be the work undertaken by EDCOT. You may recall that last year EDCOT signed a joint venture agreement with TSTT to construct a Tier 3 data center at the Cove Eco-Industrial and Business Park. This agreement has forged a new company, Nucleus, whose responsibility it is to manage the construction and operations of this data center. The center will offer co-location, managed and cloud services such as data storage, backup and recovery, disaster recovery and business continuity, and other high-end security and advanced telecommunication services to companies renting office facilities at the park. Other businesses, as well as local and international companies in the Latin America and Caribbean region, would also be offered access to the business center. Madam Presiding Officer, it is estimated that the global data center co-location market is projected to grow from US $31.5 billion in 2017 to US $62.3 billion in 2022, while wholesale co-location is expected to have the highest compound growth rate for that period. Madam Presiding Officer, Our data center at Cove can not only fill a void in this currently underserved market, but can also serve as a catalyst to propel the growth of the ICT industry in Tobago by playing a key role in leveraging ICT as an engine for transformation and in bridging the digital divide. Madam Presiding Officer, ECOT continues to collaborate with Anime Caribe, YTEP, and TITL to execute its animation program in Tobago. Earlier this year, the company successfully hosted an animation day with Sakani Solomon, a Tobago son of the soil who gained international acclaim for his graphic work in the record-breaking blockbuster movie Black Panther. Over 100 students from secondary schools throughout Tobago had an opportunity to interact with Mr. Solomon and to explore the various opportunities that the world of animation offers. Following this event, ECOT is forging ahead to outfit an animation training studio at the Cove Eco Industrial and Business Park. Madam Presiding Officer, I now turn to tourism. Madam Presiding Officer, we know that over the last few years, our tourism sector has faced its fair share of challenges that this administration is committed to addressing. To spearhead our revitalization efforts, the Tobago Tourism Agency was established last year and mandated to lead the resurgence of the island's tourism product and the marketing and repositioning of Tobago. Sorry, Madam Presiding Officer, may I read that again? To spearhead our revitalization efforts, the Tobago Tourism Agency was established last year and mandated to lead the resurgence of the island's tourism product and the marketing and repositioning of Tobago as a premier tourism destination. Madam Presiding Officer, the agency convened stakeholder consultations which informed the development of a 3-year roadmap for growth. This roadmap sets an aggressive target to increase tourist arrivals to Tobago by over 90% and on island expenditure over the next 3 years. The roadmap focuses primarily on areas of product development and destination marketing, supported by a carefully crafted airlift and cruise strategy. As it relates to product development and destination management services, Madam Presiding Officer, several initiatives are outlined in the roadmap. They include a comprehensive product audit on all tourism sites, attractions, and accommodation, rehabilitation of sensitive marine areas, and the pursuit of international certifications such as Blue Flag. Improvement to tourism-related infrastructure around Tobago, including better signage, upgrades to nature trails, the beautification of Scarborough, as well as the upgrade and restoration of beach facilities. The facilitation of the upgrade to existing accommodation facilities through the Tourism Accommodation Upgrade Program and other initiatives, and enhanced customer service training throughout the tourism industry facilitated by the Tobago Tourism and Hospitality Institute. Madam Presiding Officer, as it pertains to marketing, among the key initiatives outlined in the roadmap are the rebranding of the destination to ensure our island is differentiated in the marketplace, continuous monitoring of key performance indicators such as visitor arrivals and visitor expenditure, review of key niche markets as well as potential target markets to develop strategic marketing programs to drive incremental business, the development of a cooperative marketing program with hotels and other stakeholders to enhance overall marketing spend, and the development of a new online and social media campaign, as well as the creation of a comprehensive digital marketing strategy to support all marketing activities. Madam Presiding Officer, I now turn to monetizing our cultural resources. Madam Presiding Officer, cultural industries in developed countries are among some of the more rapidly growing industries and the largest contributors to GDP. Cultural industries have become major catalysts for growth in the global economy, increasingly moving closer to being the center of economic action across the world and can no longer be deemed secondary to the real economy. Undoubtedly, Tobago has a rich cultural heritage, and there is a need for us to realize the economic benefits to be derived from this. Over the years, we have invested significantly in our culture by providing financial and technical support to cultural groups. We have also scheduled a number of events and festivals on the island's growing event calendar. However, we now need to leverage our cultural resources even more effectively to propel our own economic development. It is therefore important that we fully exploit all the natural, yet largely untapped synergies which exist between culture and other key sectors of our economy, particularly tourism and manufacturing. Over the next fiscal year, and as part of a broader strategy to monetize our culture, we will provide greater technical and financial support to allow our cultural practitioners to showcase their cultural products in local, regional, and international markets, endorse the effective implementation of culture within our education curriculum while promoting careers in the cultural industries, introduce additional vocational programs to train our cultural practitioners in the various aspects of the cultural industry, thereby enabling them to maximize and monetize their skills, provide greater financial support and training to existing and potential cultural entrepreneurs, support our existing festivals while encouraging the development of new festivals, and encourage cultural groups and practitioners to exploit financial opportunities available through the increased cruise ship arrivals. Madam Presiding Officer, a novel initiative of this administration was the Fort King George Interactive Museum. This initiative involved the creation of a living museum reenacting the historical settings and the natural environment to stimulate past experiences and events. The event transformed the Fort King George and its environments into an interactive theatrical space to exhibit and celebrate the history of the fort. This experience, which was hosted last year for the first time, was extremely successful as an event with significant revenue-generating potential. It was estimated that approximately 3,000 cruise ship visitors participated in this activity last year. This event will continue in the next fiscal year with increased frequency. The Division of Tourism, Culture and Transportation is in the process of drafting a request for proposal with a view to having theater groups and others in the private sector participate in the management and operation of the interactive museum. Madam Presiding Officer, I now turn to the agriculture sector. Madam Presiding Officer, agriculture continues to be a critical priority for this administration. In the last year, the Division of Food Production, Forestry and Fisheries undertook a number of initiatives aimed at stimulating the agricultural sector in Tobago. In this regard, 150 new crop and livestock farmers were registered, and the Extension Unit conducted approximately 3,000 farm visits to approximately 2,500 crop and livestock farmers. In addition, approximately 12,250 tissue cultured plants were distributed from our plant tissue culture laboratory at Goldsboro. Approximately 50 capacity building training seminars were offered through the Division of Kendall Farm School in a wide range of areas to enhance the technical capacity of farmers and prospective farmers on the island. The average attendance at these seminars ranged from 25 to 50 participants, and the topics included crop and livestock production, beekeeping, post-harvest management, livestock health, and agro-processing. Additionally, incentives valued at about $1 million was paid out to farmers and livestock, to crop and livestock farmers. In the next fiscal year, the Division of Food Production, Forestry and Fisheries proposes a number of initiatives to forge a progressive path for agriculture, which will result in the development of a dynamic and multifaceted agro-production sector. In this context, the division recently submitted to the Executive Council for its consideration the Goldsboro Agricultural Irrigation Project on the Goldsboro Agricultural Estate. This estate covers 951.4 hectares, spanning the villages of Goodwood, Goldsboro, and Pembroke. This project will treat with the lack of a sustainable water supply during the dry season and its adverse effects on the farming community, and will ultimately serve to boost agricultural production on the island. The estimated cost of this project is $8.5 million. The division also proposes to continue its Eat Local campaign as part of its overall strategy to promote the production and consumption of local produce. The farming community stands to benefit from this initiative, as the Eat Local campaign will propel the demand for local produce, which will increase production, sale, and consequently farm income. The division is collaborating with other divisions of the Assembly, as well as the Tobago Hospitality and Tourism Institute and the Tobago Agricultural Society, to promote a more effective and inclusive campaign going forward. The Division of Food Production, Forestry and Fisheries also proposes to collaborate with the University of the West Indies and PCS Nitrogen on the planting of fruit trees in all primary and secondary schools in Tobago where possible. The fruit trees for consideration include guava, cherries, five-finger, soursop, and pomsity. Madam Presiding Officer. To support all our initiatives in agriculture, we will continue to upgrade and construct agricultural access roads in all major farming communities on the island. This will open up more lands for agriculture and other developments. The Assembly continues to support, as well, the Tobago Agricultural Society and other stakeholders in the agriculture sector. Madam Presiding Officer, today, please permit me to place special emphasis on the Tobago Apicultural Society. The beekeeping community in Tobago is a small yet growing sector with approximately 40 active beekeepers and around 400 managed colonies. There is significant room for growth and development of this sector, as the honey produced in Tobago has the advantage of being of a distinctly high quality. The product quality, as well as the European taste profile, has resulted in a high European demand for Tobago's honey, and locally, the demand already far exceeds supply. In this regard, there's great potential for honey production to be a commercially viable industry in Tobago. The Assembly will therefore implement measures to facilitate and support the development of the industry through education and capacity building training, the promotion of beekeeping as a viable source of income, and the promotion of funding to assist with obtaining beekeeping equipment through existing loan and grant facilities, as well as facilitate the establishment of a testing facility. Madam Presiding Officer, this Assembly is committed to the expansion and sustainability of the agricultural sector. Madam Presiding Officer, let us now turn our attention to the investment in physical Madam Presiding Officer, we are mindful of the fact that investment in physical infrastructure is not only critical to influencing the quality of life and standard of living of our citizens, but it's also vital to stimulate economic activity. In fact, there's a growing body of literature which provides compelling evidence to suggest that in societies such as ours, public investment in infrastructure serves to crowd in private sector investment and stimulate economic activity. We have invested significantly in our physical infrastructure over the past 17 years, and we will continue to do so in fiscal 2019. In fact, in the last year, approximately $44.3 million was spent on the upgrade of secondary roads in Tobago, in areas such as the Blenheim Housing Project in Hope, the Annersville Road, Daniel Trace in Camby, Farm Road in Mason Hall, Idlewild Trace, McKnight Trace in Bonaccord, and the Smithfield Connector Road in Lower Scarborough. In addition, under the Windward Road Development Program, approximately $16 million was expended to conduct road improvement works in areas such as Delaford and Charlottesville. Under the PURE program, a major sea defense stabilization project was completed to stem coastal erosion at Hanging Down in Roxborough at a total cost of $10.4 million. In addition, the Lambro Bridge was formally opened just recently at a cost of approximately $14 million. Also, work is now 58% complete on the construction of the Roxborough Administrative Complex. This project, Madam Presiding Officer, is scheduled for completion early in the next fiscal year at a projected cost of $34 million. Madam Presiding Officer, looking ahead, we must continue to ensure that optimum benefit is derived from the significant investment that the Assembly continues to make in developing our physical infrastructure. Earlier this year, the Executive Council approved the establishment of an infrastructure committee to assist in ensuring better coordination and more effective execution of infrastructure projects in Tobago. It consists of representatives from WASA, TNTEC, the Planning Department, the Land Management Department, the Division of Health and Wellness and Family Development, and the Trinidad and Tobago Contractors Association, as well as the technical support team of the Division of Infrastructure, Quarries, and the Environment. Madam Presiding Officer, some of the major infrastructure projects for the next fiscal year include the rehabilitation of the Claude Noel Highway from Rockley Vale to Bacolet, the widening of the Craig Hall River Bridge, the construction of the Buku Bay Boardwalk, extension of the Store Bay Local Road, and upgrade works to the Turpin Bend in Charlottesville. Madam Presiding Officer, we will now turn our attention to education and human capital development. Madam Presiding Officer, the importance of human capital to any society cannot be overstated, and this administration is fully cognizant of this fact. Over the last year, the Division of Education, Innovation, and Energy undertook a number of initiatives aimed at developing our human capital at all levels of the education system in Tobago. Following the establishment of the Early Childhood Care Education Unit in the division in April of last year, teachers were given capacity building training sessions in several areas, inclusive of leadership and teacher development. Also, as part of the annual school upgrade program, all 12 early childhood education centers on the island were repaired and upgraded. Moreover, as it relates to primary and secondary school education, significant work was undertaken to improve the quality and delivery of education at both levels. Primary and secondary school teachers on the island were exposed to several capacity building training programs, inclusive of leadership and school management, professional discipline, financial management, and curriculum development and implementation. The Division of Education, Innovation and Energy also employed 12 instructional coaches in literacy and numeracy to provide instructional and pedagogical support to principals, teachers, and students at the primary levels. In addition, all primary and secondary schools on the island were upgraded and repaired as part of the annual school repair program at a cost of approximately $13 million. Further expansion work on 4 primary schools is nearing completion, and these schools are expected to be available for the September 2018 school term. Madam Presiding Officer, these schools are the Hope Anglican, the Patience Hill Government, the Signal Hill Government, and the Wim Anglican primary schools. The total cost of this expansion project was approximately $18.8 million. Madam Presiding Officer, I'm also pleased to announce this morning that work continues apace on the construction of the Scarborough RC School, which is expected to be completed and opened in time for this year's September school term. This project, I'm also pleased to announce, is on time and within budget at a cost of $68 million. As it relates to post-secondary education, the Roxborough Trade Center was upgraded, and a construction skills training program for persons between the ages of 18 and 60 years was introduced. The program is especially designed to increase the number of skilled tradesmen certified by the National Examination Council for employment in the construction sector. This program is oversubscribed in the East, and we intend to launch a similar program in the West, where it has generated widespread interest. It is envisaged, Madam Presiding Officer, that many of the graduates from these programs will find ready employment in the construction sector. Madam Presiding Officer, over the next fiscal year, we'll continue to work to improve the quality of education at all levels on the island. To ensure quality delivery of the curriculum, teachers at all levels of the education system in Tobago will be exposed to capacity building training. The opening of the Teachers Professional Center at the Modern House is a significant step towards providing professional and personal development services to teachers in Tobago. These professional services support enhanced instructional delivery through the use of information technology and the construction of authentic assessments. Personal development will also be facilitated through planned retreats, workshops, and seminars. These sessions will be facilitated by local practitioners from within the school system, as well as regional and international experts who will share best practices. Madam Presiding Officer, we also propose to spend approximately $15 million to repair and upgrade all our schools on the island in the annual school repair program. Greater attention will also be placed on the infrastructural needs of the school for the deaf and the speech and language impaired, as well as the Happy Haven School, to bring them in line with acceptable international standards. A special committee is now in place to guide the process of transformation and capacity building at both schools. The Division of Education and Innovation and Energy will also partner with the Division of Health, Wellness, and Family Development to provide the necessary support services, which include physiotherapy, speech, and occupational therapy, to improve and enhance the quality of life for students at both schools. We believe, Madam Presiding Officer, that all human beings have the capacity to learn and grow, and that every child matters, and that students must be at the center of the teaching and learning process. The Division of Education, Innovation and Energy is also in discussions with the University of Trinidad and Tobago, UTT, to introduce programs that are relevant to Tobago's needs such as marine services, visual and performing arts, agriculture, clothing and textile, physical education, and sport. It is hoped that UTT's Tobago campus can become the center for visual and performing arts, as well as for the marine sciences. Madam Presiding Officer, I will now turn to housing opportunities. Madam Presiding Officer, we know that the availability and quality of the housing stock is a critical determinant of the living standards and quality of life our citizens enjoy. Given the magnitude of the financial resources required for home ownership and the imperfections in existing housing market, it is difficult for many Tobagonians to finance the construction of new homes. The state, therefore, has a critical role to play in the provision of affordable housing for Tobagonians, and we continue to work towards achieving this. Madam Presiding Officer, our ability to provide new homes in Tobago has been seriously constrained as a result of limited financial resources. However, this notwithstanding, we remain committed to treating with the existing mismatch between the demand and supply for public housing in Tobago. We are actively exploring the prospects for using a unique PPP type arrangements to provide an estimated 300 new homes at the Chauvin Estate. The land development phase should be completed by the end of this calendar year. We will also expedite development works at Corland and Bell Garden to allow persons who were granted lots at these sites to start construction activity in the quickest possible time. In addition, we'll continue to support and encourage home ownership in Tobago through the beneficiary-owned land program and the home construction subsidy program. Madam Presiding Officer, over the last fiscal year, many Tobagonians benefited from these programs geared towards home ownership as well as improving the housing stock on the island. In this regard, in the last year, we distributed approximately 200 grants to the tune of $1.5 million under the Home Improvement Grant Program and under the Home Construction Subsidy. Approximately 50 Tobagonians received financial assistance totaling just under $1 million to assist them in the construction of their homes. Madam Presiding Officer, I now turn my attention to healthcare and well-being. Madam Presiding Officer, this administration is cognizant of the fact that the quality of health care on the island has direct implications for the standard of living and the quality of life of all Tobagonians and citizens resident in Tobago. Therefore, the provision of quality health care continues to be a priority for this administration. Over the last year, a number of initiatives were undertaken to improve the provision of health care for Tobagonians, inclusive of the following: the hosting of various clinics at our health centers on issues such as lifestyle diseases, child health, wound care, dialysis, and kidney disease. The hosting of Lamar's classes as well as nutritional education sessions for expectant mothers and their male partners to improve sexual and reproductive health of Tobagonians. The provision of auditory and visual examinations for first-year students of all primary schools, as well as the administering of vaccinations to all Standard 5 students. The recruitment of specialists in maxillofacial pediatrics, pediatric surgery and orthopedic surgery that has reduced the transfer of such cases to Trinidad, and the establishment of a health and wellness center for the management of stroke and diabetes. Madam Presiding Officer, building on the advances that we have made with respect to healthcare over the last fiscal year, in the upcoming fiscal year, we propose several initiatives and programs all geared towards improving the health and well-being of Tobago's residents. In this context, we propose to intensify ongoing efforts to treat with the high incidences of non-communicable diseases such as hypertension, diabetes, cancer, cerebrovascular disease, on the island. In keeping with the NCD plan for 2017 to 2020, our strategy will focus on improved data management, as well as enhanced public awareness and early screening and detection campaigns with respect to these diseases. In an effort to expand our health infrastructure in Tobago in the next fiscal year, we expect construction activity to proceed on the new Moriah Health Center, as well as the upgrade of the Rockville Health Facility to the level of a district health facility to meet the needs of the residents in Tobago East. We also propose the establishment of new outpatient clinics for the management of breast health, stroke, and diabetes. Other initiatives to improve the health and well-being of Tobago's residents over the next fiscal year include ongoing upgrades to all health centers on the island, the continuation of social protection programs to protect vulnerable groups, inclusive of women, children, the elderly, and the differently abled, collaboration with the Department of Advanced Training and Advisory Services in the Office of the Chief Secretary to provide scholarships in specialized areas, the installation of a laboratory at Signal to enhance vector control services, and improvements to the solid waste management facility at Studley Park. Madam Presiding Officer, let us now turn our attention to sport and youth development. Madam Presiding Officer, this administration is committed to the holistic development of young people in Tobago. Among the initiatives undertaken by the Division of Sport and Youth Affairs over the past fiscal year are the provision of financial assistance to youth and sport organizations, the expansion of the after-school programs to support primary and secondary school students with remedial research and study skills, the hosting of training programs for young people in areas such as computer literacy, customer service, professional and specialized skills training, the hosting of the Tobago Youth Award and the Tobago House of Assembly Sport Award to recognize youth achievement and excellence in a wide range of areas, the World of Work program for 5th and 6th form students, as well as post-secondary school students to assist them in transitioning into the working environment, and the provision of physical activity coaches to primary schools throughout the island. Madam Presiding Officer, in the next fiscal year, the Division of Sport and Youth Affairs will continue to support the holistic development of young people through capacity building and financial assistance workshops. Among these initiatives carried for the upcoming year are the Building Bridges program, aimed at engaging youth in a regional exchange program to expose them to youth work and youth-related activities, participation in the upcoming Caribbean Youth Summit and Commonwealth Youth Forum. This forum, Madam Presiding Officer, presents an opportunity for the exposure and networking among other Commonwealth delegates, as well as the opportunity to plan various youth initiatives, and the continued upgrade to sporting and recreational facilities throughout the island. Madam Presiding Officer, beyond the initiatives outlined on the Division of Sport and Youth Affairs, there are several other initiatives and divisions across the Assembly geared towards supporting our youth development thrusts in Tobago. Under the Division of Finance and the Economy, the Youth Energized for Success program will continue to provide their core programs to assist in developing our young people. The YES program also proposed to embark upon a new initiative called Empowering People Through Innovation and Creativity, or EPIC. EPIC targets persons between the ages of 18 and 35, allowing them to explore opportunities that are available in the non-traditional and creative industries such as television, film, photography, fashion, ICT, as well as modern and sustainable agricultural methods. In addition, the Financial Literacy Secretariat in the Division of Finance and Economy also is working in this regard and proposes to partner with the National Financial Literacy Program to host a business camp called UBiz. Using an educational and interactive environment, this initiative will introduce participants between the ages of 14 and 18 to the fundamentals of setting up a small business. The aim is to facilitate the development of tech-savvy youth entrepreneurs who can compete in a global environment. Madam Presiding Officer, please permit me now to turn to the environment. This administration recognizes that one of our greatest assets as an island is our pristine natural environment. As part of our strategy for sustainable development in Tobago, the Department of Environment continues to collaborate with the Institute of Marine Affairs with respect to its wetland inventory and monitoring program and its coastal zone management program towards this goal. In addition, following the passage of a motion in this Honorable House to phase out the single use of styrofoam products in the food and beverage sector on the island in March last year, the department continues to work with the civil society and the private sector to roll out this initiative. Madam Presiding Officer, in the next fiscal year, this administration proposes new initiatives aimed at preserving our natural environment. The Executive Council recently approved, in this regard, the Executive Council recently approved the establishment of a coastal zone management unit within the Department of Environment to allow for more robust monitoring and analysis of coastal processes and the resultant impact on coastal morphology. We are cognizant of the fact that Tobago has been experiencing significant challenges related to coastal erosion and sea level rise, largely induced by climate change. In fact, coastal erosion has severely damaged and continues to compromise the integrity of our road infrastructure and public institutions along the Milford Road, Grange Bay, Black Rock, and Plymouth in the west, as well as areas such as Roxborough, Argyll, and Kendall in the east. The proposed unit will be responsible for the following: developing a coastal zone management policy for Tobago, conducting assessments with a view to providing updated qualitative and quantitative data on risk in the coastal zone using international best practices, and developing coastal infrastructure to mitigate coastal erosion, enhancing the resilience of coastal infrastructure, and improving the aesthetics and recreational opportunities afforded to tourists and residents. Madam Presiding Officer, the unit will be tasked with the rehabilitation of Pigeon Point, Grange Bay, and the wider Milford Road coastline through engineering interventions that are to be informed by a comprehensive coastal study. Additionally, the Department of Environment will collaborate with the Division of Tourism, Culture, and Transportation in obtaining Blue Flag accreditation for selected beaches in Tobago. This requires the collection and analysis of data on water quality by an internationally certified laboratory and the development of strategies to address any issues that may arise. Blue Flag accreditation will serve to enhance the island's tourism product and give the island additional tourism marketing options. Madam Presiding Officer, we now look at our initiatives to empower our communities. Madam Presiding Officer, this administration believes that sustainable development requires communities to play an integral role. As such, we recognize the empowerment of communities in Tobago as an essential element of our developmental strategy. Over the last few years, this administration has invested significantly in our communities. In fact, just last year alone, several facilities were upgraded or repaired, including Bethel, Mount Grace, Signal Hill, Castara, and Palatuvia, and the Palatuvia Community Centers, as well as Y zones in Speyside, Calder Hall, Mason Hall, Plymouth, and Argyle. Moreover, the Division of Community Development, Enterprise Development and Labor conducted several training programs in areas such as vocational skills and entrepreneurship in approximately 29 communities throughout Tobago, targeting approximately 2,050 participants. Further, to assist in fostering entrepreneurship at the community level, the division facilitated activities such as the Calder Hall Market Experience, the Palatuvia and Environs Business Outreach Seminar, and several night markets. Approximately 125 entrepreneurs participated in these community entrepreneurship initiatives. In addition, through the IT literacy and working centers managed by the Tobago Information Technology Limited, the Assembly continues to support computer literacy at the community levels with approximately 5,700 persons utilizing the working centers and approximately 100 persons receiving training in computer literacy using the Microsoft suite of products over the past year. Programs earmarked for implementation in the next fiscal year include the Community Literacy Improvement Plan, the Social Cohesion and Mobilization Plan, and the Pride of Tobago project. Madam Presiding Officer, we now examine our efforts to modernize the public sector. We recognize that there's an urgent need to modernize the public service, not only in Tobago, but also nationally, with a view to enhancing the capacity, efficiency, and professionalism of the organization. We propose to establish a public service academy, modeled after the Canadian Academy, to provide ongoing training programs for all public servants to help them acquire the knowledge and develop skills that are needed to be high-performing and innovative. Madam Presiding Officer, the effective transformation of the government system requires a training curriculum that focuses on myriad topics such as leadership and management techniques, information communication technology, policy development and planning, procurement, and governance. These are the key areas identified as pertinent to combat the critical and growing issues within the Assembly and to foster a networked and interconnected organization focused on maximizing results. In addition, the Academy will continuously provide training in 3 core administrative areas, and these include public sector orientation, specialized development, and management and leadership. These are relevant areas of training for public officers and contracted employees in order to gain an understanding of the values, ethics, culture, and functions of the civil service, and as well as the importance of one's role in the organization. Also, training of this kind is imperative to help new employees with no prior public sector experience to transition into the public service. The Academy will also host a wide range of seminars in critical areas such as risk management, change management, project management, lean business processes, and crisis management. At these forums, employees can benefit from a deeper understanding of the role that the public sector plays in leveraging the progress of the island. The establishment of this academy will benefit the Tobago House of Assembly holistically because of the emphasis on civic education, service-oriented learning, and leadership, all tailored to developing and advancing the economy of Tobago. Madam Presiding Officer, in the first instance, we propose to use the Tobago Hospitality and Tourism Institute as a campus for the Public Service Academy. Madam Presiding Officer, the foregoing are the broad thematic areas which the fiscal package of the Assembly for 2019 will address. I remain eternally grateful for the many individuals, organizations, and groups who assisted me in shaping the budgetary proposals of the Assembly. Madam Presiding Officer, I now present the expenditure estimates for 2019, beginning with the recurrent estimates. The recurrent estimates for fiscal 2019 totals $3.2 billion. Disaggregated personal expenditure, $901.2 million. Goods and services, $1 billion. Minor equipment purchases, $113.7 million. And transfers and subsidies, $1.1 billion. Madam Presiding Officer, this represents an increase of $40.7 million from last year's request. The recurrent estimates by division for fiscal 2019 are as follows. Assembly Legislature, $26.1 million. Office of the Chief Secretary, $233.3 million. Finance and Economy, $264.4 million. Tourism, Culture and Transportation, $381.1 million. Education, Innovation and Energy, $486.6 million. Community Development, Enterprise Development and Labor, $123.2 million. Infrastructure, Quarries and the Environment, $522.3 million. Food Production, Forestry and Fisheries, $312.5 million. Health, Wellness and Family Development, $756.3 million. Settlements, Urban Renewal and Public Utilities, $35.4 million. And Sport and Youth Affairs, $97 million. Madam Presiding Officer, some of the highlights in the recurrent expenditure for fiscal 2019 are the Tobago Regional Health Authority, $510.1 million. The Tobago Tourism Authority, $141.4 million. School Feeding Program, $50 million. Information Technology Center, $15.5 million. The Tobago Hospitality Institute, $15 million. Assistance to Small Properties, $8.6 million. The Agricultural Incentive Program, $4 million. Grant and Necessitous Patients, $3 million. Assistance to Cultural Groups, $2.5 million. Assistance to Sporting Organizations, $2 million. A Sport Development Program, $2 million. Assistance to Sporting Organizations, Assistance to Sport Tourism Organizations, $2 million. And the Tobago Agricultural Society, $2 million. Madam Presiding Officer, I now turn my attention to the estimates for the development program. The estimates for the development program for fiscal 2019 amount to $1.38 billion, representing a decrease of $228.4 million from the estimates of 2018. The development program estimates are disaggregated as follows. Pre-investment studies, $25 million. Productive sectors, $15.5 million. Economic infrastructure, $663.7 million. Social infrastructure, $430.9 million. And multi-sectoral and other services, $215.4 million. Madam Presiding Officer, to continue our diversification efforts and to facilitate the development of our local private sector, our estimates in the development program will continue to provide support in the following areas. The Enterprise Development Company of Tobago, it cut $40.7 million. The Business Incubator Program, $10.1 million. The Scarborough Esplanade Phase 2 Program, $6 million. The Enterprise Development Grant Program, $6 million. The Tobago and the Tobago Venture Capital Equity Fund Limited Program, $4 million. Madam Presiding Officer, given the importance of tourism to the Tobago economy, the 2019 estimates will provide for infrastructural works at Pigeon Point, $9.1 million. Upgrade works at Manta Lodge, $8.3 million. The Law Wildlife Nature Park, $7.5 million. The construction of Phase 2 of the Fort King George Heritage Park, $6.4 million. The construction of beach facilities at Englishman's Bay, $2 million. The construction of cruise ship berths, $2 million. Madam Presiding Officer, the agricultural sector revitalization program will remain a priority for this administration in fiscal 2019. As such, the estimate caters for the agricultural access roads program, $55 million. The establishment of agro-processing facilities, $11.5 million. The improvement to beaches and landing facilities, $10 million. The Goldsboro Estate Irrigation Project, $8.5 million. The development of an agro park at the Friendship Estate, $5 million. And the Comprehensive State Land Development Program, $4 million. Madam Presiding Officer, support for education is also a primary area of focus for this administration in fiscal 2019. And our development program estimates make provision for the support of educational programs and improvement of facilities. We have therefore budgeted for the improvements to primary schools, $20 million. The establishment of a Tobago Science Research Center, $7 million. The establishment of early childhood care centers, $5 million. A seamless education program, $5 million. Establishment of visual arts and performance theaters in primary schools, $3 million. Upgrade Happy Haven School, $2.5 million. The construction of the school for the deaf, for the physically challenged, $2.5 million. An upgrade of the Roxborough Trade Center, $1.5 million. Madam Presiding Officer, in fiscal 2019, we have also provision for an accelerated public sector housing program. Accordingly, our development program estimates provide for the Corland Estate Land Development, $26 million. Land development at Sherburne Road, $18 million. The Adelphi Estate, $15.8 million. Home improvement grants, $10 million. The development of Bell Garden Estate Phase 2, $7.2 million. The Adventure Estate Plymouth Road development, $3 million. And home improvement subsidies totaling $2 million. Madam Presiding Officer, will continue to upgrade and expand our road network and other physical infrastructure in fiscal 2019, and the estimates provide for an expanded road resurfacing program of $50 million, major improvement works to secondary roads, $40 million, rehabilitation of the Claude Noel Highway, $27 million, the Coastal Zone Protection Program, $25 million, construction of Milford Road bridges, $25 million, the Windward Road Special Development Program, $18 million, construction of the Milford Road bypass to Smithfield, $15 million, construction of the A&R Robinson International Airport Boulevard, $15 million, construction of sea defense walls, $15 million, the Milford Coastal Protection Program, $10 million, the construction of the Canaan Bonaccord Connector Train, $8 million, erection of the Roxborough Bloody Bay Retaining Wall, $7.5 million, and repair work along the Plymouth Annosville Road, $6 million, and the improvements to the Mount Pleasant Lowlands drainage system, $5 million. Madam Presiding Officer, going forward, this is just a snapshot of the activities we propose to undertake on the development program in fiscal 2019. Since these projects and programs are widely dispersed across the island, the economic benefits will certainly diffuse throughout all communities in Tobago. Madam Presiding Officer, the only other estimates to be included for fiscal 2019 are provisions for URP and CPEP of $70 million and $54.1 million, respectively. Madam Presiding Officer, within recent times, both URP and CPEP programs were significantly restructured. In fact, the Executive Council approved a new strategic plan for CPEP, while URP formulated a new policy framework to guide its operations for the period 2018 to 2020. Both programs were restructured to allow for a greater focus on skills training to enable employees to graduate from them, as well as to allow for a greater focus on revenue-generating activities, as well as support for the agricultural sector. Madam Presiding Officer, for fiscal 2019, the estimates of both revenue, the estimates of revenue, both tax and non-tax, are as follows. Taxes on income and profit, $143.5 million. Taxes on property, $0.6 million. Taxes on goods and services, $58.4 million. Taxes on international trade, $2.5 million. Other taxes, $5.2 million, resulting in total tax revenue of $210.3 million. Property income taxes, $0.1 million. Other tax revenue, $0.6 million, resulting in total non-tax revenue of $0.7 million. And taken together, Madam Presiding Officer, the total revenue projected for fiscal 2019 is $211.1 million. Madam Presiding Officer, although the current revenue collection in Tobago do not match the expenditure, this is in no way a true reflection of the value of Tobago's real contribution to the national economy. What is not considered here are revenues generated from activities related to the exploration and production of energy resources in the marine spaces around the island of Tobago. This is one of the central issues in the legislation for internal self-government. It is also the case that current revenue collections in Tobago do not include taxes, fees, duties, and levies of companies and financial institutions in respect of their Tobago operations, since these are currently paid centrally in Trinidad by their head offices, contrary to Section 49(2), the Tobago House of Assembly Act 40 of 1996. Madam Presiding Officer, it also does not include the taxes paid by many Tobagonians who on almost a daily basis conduct business in Trinidad. For example, there are many Tobagonians who import motor vehicles and other goods via companies in Trinidad, and the taxes they pay on the importation of these items are collected nationally. Madam Presiding Officer, all these issues related to tax collection in Tobago are addressed in the new legislation for self-government. Madam Presiding Officer, the Assembly continues to place a high priority on revenue-generating projects, and in this context, I'm happy to report that the Studley Park Enterprise Limited has improved the efficiency and productivity of the quarry and is now a profitable enterprise. Discussions are ongoing with various financial institutions as the Tobago House of Assembly explores alternative financing mechanisms, such as bond financing, to fund its development initiatives on the island. A policy decision has been taken to obtain financing from the domestic markets. From our recent discussions, the feedback has been very positive. As we seek to raise additional funding, Madam Presiding Officer, the Tobago House of Assembly will strengthen its institutional arrangements to enable effective debt management. In the upcoming fiscal year, the Assembly proposes to raise funds via a bond issue to accelerate Tobago's developmental thrust. Madam Presiding Officer, at the beginning of this administration's term, a concerted effort was made to increase our collaboration with our multilateral partners and other key stakeholders in the financial sector and diplomatic community to leverage their expertise for improved operational efficiency and financial support. Several of these initiatives are well underway, and new opportunities are being continuously cultivated through these partnerships. Madam Presiding Officer, the current economic challenges compel us to take a more strategic approach to the way we conduct business in the Tobago House of Assembly. In the words of the Honorable Chief Secretary, it is business as unusual. In fiscal 2019, the Assembly is to be included in a pilot program facilitated by an Inter-American Development Bank loan to modernize the national accounting systems through the adoption of a new public financial management framework. This integrated financial management information system, or IFMIS, would include business process reengineering for budget presentation and execution, the migration, as well as the migration to accrual accounting as per the International Public Sector Accounting Standards, and the design and implementation of an internal audit framework to improve transparency and reporting. In this regard, over the next fiscal year, the Assembly will also take steps to adopt a multi-term budgeting framework, which will prioritize, allocate, and manage the resources of the Assembly, and also institute policy to inform the allocation of revenue and expenditure over the medium term up to 5 years. This new approach will bring the budget analysis, decision-making, and expenditure under greater control earlier in the cycle, since decisions made today will influence annual budgets over the next 3 to 4 years. Madam Presiding Officer, adopting a multi-term budgeting framework will allow the Assembly to achieve greater expenditure efficiency and inclusive growth, and will protect priority spending while delaying other non-priority spending when resources are constrained. It will also encourage a more strategic approach to resource allocation and more efficient planning over the medium term. Through our participation, the Assembly will be able to advance a program of results-based management underpinned by real-time monitoring and evaluation of measurable indicators towards sound fiscal management. Madam Presiding Officer, over the course of fiscal 2019, as we pursue the results-based management approach, the Assembly will work with the Caribbean Development Bank and the Ministry of Planning and Development to address a key factor in performance management, which is the implementation deficit. The CDB, along with many stakeholders, have identified the delivery of effective development outcomes as one of the severe challenges facing policymakers and practitioners across the region. They have sought to address this by providing a platform for practitioners to share best practices to enhance efficiency and performance of the public sector. The Assembly intends to adopt a new performance management framework that includes practical tools, techniques, and innovative concepts to enhance performance and improve coordination and service delivery across an array of strategic areas. Madam Presiding Officer, one such area is the commissioning of a Tobago infrastructure investment strategy and associated medium-term Tobago infrastructural plans. The Executive Council has approved the development of this initiative to inform the island's spatial development strategy and foster a more integrated approach to infrastructure planning and investment. Moreover, the development of such a spatial investment the development of such a capital investment strategy not only defines Tobago's infrastructure priorities, but also provides a transparent, coordinated, and unified approach to investment and procurement, resulting in the development of a comprehensive and viable project pipeline for both publicly initiated and unsolicited proposals, ultimately ensuring better value for money. The Tobago Infrastructure Investment Strategy will be driven by a multi-sectoral committee whose role will be to plan for and satisfy Tobago's future infrastructural needs. The core committee will be led by the Investment and Public-Private Partnership Unit in the Division of Finance and Economy, and will comprise planners, engineers, project managers, technical staff, representatives of the utilities and environmental agencies, as well as financial and economic analysts and social scientists, to ensure that a responsible cross-section of decision makers are represented and to capitalize on opportunities for linkages between divisions, departments, and agencies. The Tobago Infrastructure Investment Strategy and the multi-sectoral committee will also include representation from the private sector, civil society, and Madam Presiding Officer, let me emphasize here that we will seek to secure bipartisan support where necessary. As the Tobago Infrastructure Investment Strategy is fundamentally aligned with elements of Inter-American Development Bank's Emerging Sustainable Cities Initiative and the institutional development component of their neighborhood upgrading and revitalization program, the multi-sectoral committee through the IP3 unit will leverage technical support from the relevant IDB groups to assist the Assembly to become sufficiently equipped to undertake the task of strategic programming and prioritizing, developing not only policy recommendations, but also an action plan for comprehensive investment planning. Madam Presiding Officer, this is just one facet of our larger public-private partnership policy framework. Madam Presiding Officer, through the support of the IDB, the CDB, and the Canadian High Commission, we have developed a robust framework to advance viable candidate projects for execution via the PPP modality. This framework will be published on the websites of the Assembly and the Division of Finance and Economy, and a series of stakeholder sensitization sessions will follow. It is hoped that all relevant stakeholders in Tobago will participate in these initiatives to be best positioned for the upcoming opportunities. Madam Presiding Officer, the Assembly has also continued its discussions with the CDB and the IDB on alternative financing for infrastructure projects with significant environmental impact, such as the Coastal Protection Program for the stabilization of Milford Road, Grange Bay, coastal erosion mitigation and protection at Pigeon Point, and as well as the relocation of the Scarborough Secondary School. Madam Presiding Officer, before I conclude, I wish to take this opportunity to address a few critical socio-economic issues affecting Tobago, which will have long-term development implications for the island. Madam Presiding Officer, the first issue is that of the inter-island transportation system. The inter-island transportation system provides critical support, particularly to the tourism and agricultural sectors. Over the last year, the inter-island transportation system has been a major cause of concern for Tobagonians. Its impact is far-reaching and includes not only the business community, but the wider Tobago and Trinidad population. In this regard, Madam Presiding Officer, let me take this opportunity to publicly thank Tobagonians for their patience while we seek to find a sustainable solution. Although things have improved significantly, our objective is to ensure that Tobagonians and visitors alike can travel between the islands in a dignified manner. In this regard, we are currently in discussions with consultants to conduct a study on the inter-island transportation system, examining policy, planning, and operational issues, including the evaluation of the management structures and the possibility of alternative arrangements for improved travel. Madam Presiding Officer, I'm also heartened by the news from the Prime Minister's recent visit to Australia, resulting in the acquisition of 2 new fast ferries for Tobago. These vessels, together with the Galleon Passage, will replace the aging fleet and minimize the current challenges on the sea bridge. Madam Presiding Officer, the second issue is that of crime and security, an issue which this administration continues to treat with seriously. Accordingly, there are ongoing collaborations between the Assembly and the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service to maximize our efforts towards fighting crime on the island. As a result of these discussions, over the last year, 20 additional police officers were assigned to Tobago to strengthen the force and to assist with crime fighting on the island. In addition, the Tobago House of Assembly has collaborated with the Ministry of National Security on a new initiative entitled the National Crime Prevention Program, and an Assembly-led working group was created by the Office of the Chief Secretary to coordinate the Tobago Community Crime Prevention Strategy. Madam Presiding Officer, the third issue is that of self-government for Tobago. The issue of self-government for Tobago has been a long-standing and thorny issue, with significant development implications for all citizens in Tobago and Trinidad. The prospects for financing Tobago's development are significant. I'm happy that after years of consultations, debates, and arguments, we are now much closer to achieve this seemingly elusive goal of self-government for our island. I am pleased that the bill is now before a Joint Select Committee of Parliament, and I hope that the committee can complete its work in the shortest possible time to pave the way for the process to move forward. Madam Presiding Officer, it is hoped that when the bill is placed before Parliament for debate, our friends in opposition would see beyond narrow parties and politics, and would also encourage their friends in Trinidad to support this bill. Madam Presiding Officer, there are some issues that transcend party politics. The issue of self-government for Tobago is one of them. Self-government goes far beyond party preferences. It centers on the development of Tobago and its people. Therefore, I continue to urge all of Tobago to get involved. Let us increase the momentum until we achieve self-government for Tobago. Madam Presiding Officer, the fourth issue I wish to address relates to ongoing collaborations between the Tobago House of Assembly and the central government. The Tobago House of Assembly and the central government continue to collaborate on a number of major projects geared towards this island's development. For instance, Madam Presiding Officer, the construction of the Old Grange and Rockford police stations are just an example. The Old Grange police station is 50% completed, and its expected completion date is November 2018. The Roxborough police station is about 23% completed, and its expected completion date is April 2019. Another project is the construction of the new terminal for the A&R Robinson International Airport at Crown Point. The Tobago House of Assembly continues to collaborate with the central government on this project, given its critical role in the expansion of the long-term viability for the Tobago tourism sector. The estimated cost of construction of the new terminal is $500 million. Also, Madam Presiding Officer, other major works to be undertaken in collaboration with the central government include the construction of a marina in Tobago. The marina has the potential to enhance tourism spend and as well positively impact this island's development. Madam Presiding Officer, last but not least, the Tobago House of Assembly continues to join forces with the central government regarding the construction of the Sandals and Beaches Resort. This project would assist in addressing the existing problem of the shortage of quality room stock on the island. It is estimated that Tobago has a room stock gap of approximately 2,500 rooms. This project also has the potential to change the socio-economic landscape of Tobago. For instance, the presence of a Sandals resort on the island would notably enhance the marketability of Tobago as a premier destination. It will also provide possibilities of increased airlift to Tobago out of the North American markets, as this is being experienced currently by our Caribbean neighbors. Therefore, there's much to be gained through this Sandals and Beaches initiative, as will not only promote the island, but also contribute to our national diversification efforts. Madam Presiding Officer, we must adequately prepare to optimize the benefits to be derived from this project. The agricultural sector, for example, must be prepared so that they can ramp up production to accommodate the anticipated demand. Our citizens also need to be ready to meet the standards of excellence and customer service that will be undoubtedly be demanded by these hotels. As a responsible body, the Assembly understands that the proposed location is environmentally sensitive. Therefore, we will ensure that we will work with the central government to provide adequate care and attention to protect our pristine natural environment. I want to give Tobagonians the assurance that this administration is committed to ensuring that there will be no injury to the environment, and we will also ensure that Tobago derives optimal benefits from these discussions. The final issue I wish to address, Madam Presiding Officer, is that of a development plan for the island. The Comprehensive Economic Development Plan, CEDP 2.0, was a roadmap that guided our development for the period 2013 to 2017. This was the second iteration, and the planning horizon for this document has now elapsed. There is now an urgent need for us to engage in developing a new planning framework for the island. And let me say, Madam Presiding Officer, that this process is already in train, and we will hear more about it in the budget statement, the budget debate on Thursday. Madam Presiding Officer, as I bring today's presentation to a close, once again, let me give the people of Tobago the assurance that this administration remains committed to the continued development of Tobago. We are cognizant of the fact that the road ahead will not be easy, but we are confident that if we work together, we can overcome whatever challenges we face as an island. Madam Presiding Officer, the qualities of thrift, industriousness, tenacity, resilience, and honesty, for which we as Tobagonians have been known, are the same qualities that we need to take us through these difficult times. Today's budget is being presented against a backdrop of challenging but not insurmountable economic and social issues facing our twin island state, and we all have a duty of care to assist our country to overcome these challenges. It is therefore imperative that we all recognize that the decisions we make today and the postures and attitudes that we adopt will have consequences for better or worse over the medium to long term. We must all commit to work together to make our country a better place. And I have every confidence that if we do, our nation will emerge from its economic and social challenges stronger and more resilient, thus creating a better place for our children and our grandchildren. Madam Presiding Officer, as I indicated earlier, we have an audacious but doable development program planned for our island. We also have visionary and insightful leadership. The onus, therefore, is on all of us to work together in the interest of our island and our country. Fortunately for us, through the ongoing collaborations with the central government, there are a number of important projects that can transform the social and economic landscape of Tobago. As Tobagonians, we must prepare ourselves to benefit from these opportunities, as this is the only way we can ensure that we derive optimal benefit from this socio-economic transformation. Madam Presiding Officer, let me say that this has been an auspicious moment, and so on behalf of the Chief Secretary, all the Secretaries and Assistant Secretaries of the Tobago House of Assembly, I most wholeheartedly thank the audience within and without the chamber for your time and attention. May God continue to bless you and bless the people of Tobago and the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. And Madam Presiding Officer, I beg to move.
Honorable members, the question proposed, be it resolved that the House approve the draft estimates of revenue and expenditure respecting all functions of the Tobago House of Assembly for the financial year October 1st, 2018 to September 30th, 2019, copies of which were laid on the table at an earlier stage of the proceedings. Leader of Assembly Business.
Thank you, Madam Presiding Officer. I do beg to second this motion and reserve my right to speak at a later time. I also beg to move that this House now stand adjourned to Thursday, 28 June at 10 a.m.
Honorable members, the question put is that this House now stand adjourned to a date to be fixed to Thursday, the 28th of June. All in favor? Aye. Any against? Motion is carried. The House will stand adjourned to Thursday, the 28th of June.